Beautiful. Welcome, everybody. This is my first live on my page.
Love that. What's up, everyone?
We, I had this strong inkling to get on here, and Maria just happened to be so lovely to join me. I was just going to go bold and do it myself. Just trying to figure out so I can see if people are looking.
Yeah, I'm on your page so I can watch if anybody comments.
Okay. So I was sitting here today and I just felt this strong, like, I gotta go live. I gotta go live. And it came in because today is 5 years since my Pepe, my dad's father, passed. And I woke up with my right knee really, really, really hurting. And I've made a video or two about this on our YouTube about how our body keeps the score. Maria and I talk about this. We work with people with this in coaching and our readings and stuff. But it never rings more true when it's actually physically happening in real time. And then once all of a sudden you're like, ding dong, this is why the pain goes away because you've become aware of it. And so today, my knee when I woke up, my knee was like excruciating, and it hasn't really hurt in a few months. And I knew why it hurt then. And so today I said to my partner, I was like, why is my knee hurting? What's going on? What do I have to know? And then I shared with him how it's my Pepe's 5 year anniversary. And as soon as I said that, my knee, the pain like went out of my body. And then it slowly went up gently into my hip a little bit. And then up into my liver where it felt this like, and then my right breast was just like a log, like it fucking hurt. And then I had to run to go to the bathroom because I had a client in like 2 minutes. And like through the running, the pain just, whew, it like left my body. So it had something to do with obviously the masculine side, because that's our right side, but related to my grandfather, related to the family line, related to all of that, which I've known. And so it was just interesting that my grandfather was giving me this message today of like, I just heard no more hindrance right now. Like it's okay to let go. It's okay to run type of thing. So I was sharing it with Maria, and she was sharing with me stuff that's been coming up because our body truly does hold the memory of things, even if it happened a week ago, 3 weeks ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. If we don't have the capacity at that time to feel the emotions of which we're feeling and where they're landing in our body, then they appear later. And they usually appear when we're in a safer space to connect and to feel it if we allow it. Um, so yeah, that's why we're gonna make this about body keeps score.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah, the cellular memories are they're deep, right? And so like our body holds on to these things, as Sam was saying, like when we are in a situation where we're not fully processing whatever it is, whatever the trauma is, whatever the painful experience is, the body then holds on to it. And what I'm also experiencing since well, Sam was out here with me last week, and like we did a lot of deep energy work here on the land that I'm living on, land close by, and ourselves. So, of course, like anything, it shifts a lot and it brings a lot up to the surface. And anytime Sam and I spend physical time together, there's always like big transformations and almost like immediate manifestations that happen to both of us right after we like part ways. And that's what's been happening for us for the last week. And for me, Friday was the anniversary of breaking up with my husband. And so my body is processing a lot this week. Um, that it is, it's kind of it's a great what's the word I'm looking for? Which is a great symbol of how like the illusion of space and time, right? Because at this time on the calendar year last year, I was going through like massive turmoil because understand that like we broke up, but I was still living in the house for a few weeks and those weeks were not good. And my body is like every day I'm waking up and I'm feeling like this pit of anxiety inside of me. And I'm like, oh, what is going on? Just like how Sam asked, what is going on? Like, I know what's going on, but what's going on? And then my higher self is literally bringing me each day to the day a year ago of like what was happening right now. And so
Mm.
now, because I'm in my own safe space by myself, I'm able to like really bring compassion to those parts of me that were so in fear last year at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm feeling it like just as intensely as I was last year, but I'm now able to hold space for myself in a way that I couldn't last year at this time because I was in a survival mode.
Yep. That was making me think what happened. Where was I 5 years ago in March? And it was the pandemic. It was right before it was yeah, it was right before the like the hospitals were shutting everyone out because my grandfather lived in an assisted living, like long-term facility, had his own apartment and stuff. But I just remember when he passed, I had this like obviously deep sadness, but this also like deep gratitude and like almost sigh of relief because it would have hurt him more if people couldn't visit him,
Mhm.
right? Like it would have stressed him out more knowing that he can't see anybody. He can't go to the Dollar Tree, the Panera Bread. He can't, like, we can't fly and see him. And then also the fact, like, me working in the hospital would have just, he was someone who, like, hyper stressed about things that he couldn't control. Um, or he didn't know like all the details to. Like he would just, it would stress him the fuck out. And so I remember like when he passed, it was like that. But then with his, so this is coming in strong, because then when we had his funeral, like my own family wouldn't hug me because I was working in the hospital and we had to distance ourselves so nobody could come to his funeral. And I remember just going to Castle Island in Boston after and just like standing at the water. And I'm seeing right now my knee against like one of the poles. There's like these railings. And I had my right knee inside one of the poles, just like anchoring me, and the wind just like taking me. Cause one of the last times he was in Boston, we went there. Oh, look at this. I know I need to talk about this. Thanks, Pepe.
I'm getting such chills the whole time you're talking.
He's like, I was right there. And I can hear him like, Summer. Um, oh, it's so cute. And I got a reading a few months ago, actually last month, February 8th. Sat down and this woman, I specifically went to her because she does just strictly mediumship. And the first person she brought in was Pepe, which surprised me, but didn't. And like through that reading, a lot of awareness came in even more just to validate um the resonance I've always felt with Pepe that other people might not see that him and I are very similar because my family looked at my Nana, which was his wife, as like I'm like a duplicate of her. Like my energy, what I'm here for, my compassion is like her, but I feel like my bulldog take no shit energy is Pepe. And it's like since they've both passed and I've like learned to connect to myself, I'm learning to bridge both of them and really be tender with both of their like stories, their paths, right? And um during the pandemic, I remember running. Oh, this is so funny. This is why I had to run to the bathroom today. Because I remember running out of the room, hanging chemo, having to pee, and was like, I gotta hang the chemo, gotta hang the chemo. And I remember my leg like sliding underneath me. And I ran into the back. I couldn't unlock the lock to get into the bathroom. And I remember like sitting there and like, oh, I just fucked up my knee. Wow. How
Yeah,
interesting.
right.
The power of sitting and reflecting people. Like it your spirit knows, it just streams in.
Yep.
Oh wow. That's so interesting. See,
It
all of
always
this you
is.
forget.
Yes, because when you're in that survival mode, right? Like we are literally tunnel vision. We're literally just trying to survive. So you're blocking out everything, right? And I think I've shared it in other videos Sam and I have made, but like my guides have literally showed me what tunnel vision is like. And it's literally looking through like the inside of a paper towel thing, right?
Mm.
Or toilet paper, like, and you're literally looking through. Well, that is how we're viewing life when we're in trauma. Like we're seeing like this minute little tiny perspective, right? And so you block out so much shit, but the body keeps score. The body remembers, the subconscious mind remembers and buries it. And until you sit down and do like deep reflection like this, you don't realize what you're carrying, really.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, I mean, here my stuff was a year ago that I'm processing right now. And I'm someone I do have a really good memory. I always have. Um, and like I've been
Especially with
processing it
names.
for yeah, and I've been processing it for the last year, right? Like I've literally been processing it. But once the anniversary of like the actual day that everything happened hit, it was my body started purging and releasing in all sorts of ways. And as it was, then all these other memories were flooding in,
Hmm.
like little things that I had like, kind of pushed under pushed under the rug. And Sam and I were talking too before we jumped on about like what does it mean to be triggered? And like I think there's this I don't think I know there's like kind of a negative connotation with triggering. Like we immediately think being triggered means it's bad, right? Like trigger is really just another word for an activation or a remembering, right? That the body's holding on to. So something outside of us, some sort of external catalyst, whether it's a conversation with someone else, whether it's watching an interaction between other people, something triggers a memory or a response within our body. Now, how
Hmm.
we react to that, that kind of determines our, I'll say, emotional intelligence and our self-awareness. But we're all getting triggered like all the time. And triggering doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes a good memory is triggered. Sometimes a positive emotion is elicited by some sort of external catalyst, if you will. And for me, I've had a few catalysts over the weekend that are further amplifying the energy that I exited a year ago. And so I also know it's coming in with purpose. It's coming in for a reason. It's actually coming in, these experiences are coming in to help me release this even more. But I would be lying if my human self weren't to say it's irritating as fuck sometimes
Of course.
because it's bringing everything up again, right? And so like the human ego victim self is like, why again? Why again? Why is this coming up, right? Like it's like irritated with it. But then my higher self gently slides in and it's like, you know why? Just feel it.
Hmm.
You don't have to analyze it. The more we try to analyze it, the more we get stuck in it. And this is where like the flow state is very misunderstood. People think flowing is just like, oh, like that we're bypassing. Flowing means you're just allowing whatever energy is coming up to move through you without trying to even label it or analyze it or give it a story. It'll tell you its story if you literally just let it come through. Just like how
Just how
Sam
it
was
did.
just reflecting, literally. Like that was a perfect example of like, oh my God, it's telling me the story. Like I don't have to figure out the story. When you just be and let it move through you, the messages that come through are profound.
Hmm. It's yeah, all of that. This morning, I signed on, what is her name? Colette something. She does Oracle cards, whatever. But I just signed on for her like free journaling prompt. Like I already know how to journal, but I was like, I feel drawn to do this. I'm just gonna do this. And it was really cool because she like has you draw a circle on the page, then you stare at it and you kind of like soften your focus, and then you draw a circle around that, and then you soften your focus. So it's like a portal around the circle. And then whatever word, she said, whatever 10 words come up, put it in that circle around that main circle. So I did. She's like, whatever comes up, just free. So some interesting words came up, but then like, and she's like, okay, now I just want you to like soften your gaze on these 10 words. And whichever one like stands out the most, you're going to write about that for 5 minutes. So I did. And it's the same thing if something is coming up in your body, a physical sensation or emotion, right? If it's really stressing you out and it's like hard to just kind of be sometimes and just allow it, you can do the journaling thing. So obviously you don't need a
Mm-hmm.
dot, but you can draw a dot with a circle around, pretend there's a portal, or you can just simply write the word on the paper, whatever you're feeling. Or let's say right knee, right? Like, because that would have been my next step if this live didn't bring forth more awareness, is write down right knee. And I would circle it, or I would draw me and Maria's symbol around it, which is the heart with an infinity. Or I would just simply write it, put my hand on it, and be like, all
Oh,
right,
can you
right
see it?
knee.
Like I'm
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
she
show.
has it tattooed. Yeah.
I'm like,
Waving in
yeah,
the air like you
that.
just don't care. Yeah. I only got the infinity. I'll get the heart. Um, but it's I'll just try it. But you don't even have to do this. This is just a little extra thing, but it's like that. That's one of our symbols. And then you have like the ethers, sun, star up here, and then the earth, the tree down here. But anyways, but you can just write, let's say write knee, and then see what it and just wait and just write. Right. Because that's also a way to exert energy out of your body. You can even just hold the area. But journaling, it was like I needed that free class today to remind me the importance of journaling because I always tell people to do it. But when it comes to me, it's like, oh, because I feel like I journal out loud. Like I what's the word? I'm a outward processor. Like I'm a
Projector.
yeah, vocal processor, I guess. So like I'll go
Mm-hmm.
for walks and process, but I'm talking out loud, like while I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm driving and I'm talking out loud. Like, so I'm like, I'm not physically journaling, but man, does things shift even when you're physically journaling? Because it's like you just lose consciousness. You're just, well, not,
Yeah.
you don't lose consciousness. You're still alive, but like, you know what I mean?
You lose consciousness. No, you're basically channeling. It's like
Yeah.
automatic. It's automatic writing essentially, where you're actually not in your thinking mind. That's
Right.
what I think you're referring to.
That's
It's
what
like
I'm saying.
you're
Yeah.
not in the analytical thinking mind. You're just allowing the energy to channel through you.
Hmm.
It's a great way to like practice tuning into your intuition, right? Like whether it's and this is something I think I've talked about, but like I give my clients options with their journaling because we are all different. We learn differently, we process differently. And so some people don't like to write, right? And I get that, or they don't like to type, and I get that. And so if that's gonna deter you from doing the work, well then we need to figure out another way that um you can process. So I do like I've had people do the recorded. I'll still send them the same journal prompts, but then I say voice record yourself, right? Because hearing yourself is so powerful. When you go
Hmm.
back and listen to yourself after you're in whatever state channeling, like that is the wisdom that comes through you because it's you, it's your life, right? Like who better to guide you than you? But we spend so much time not processing and living up here and like thinking. We're like thinking, thinking, thinking. So we're like, oh yeah, we're processing. No, we're just like stuck in the thinking. But there needs to be some way that we channel the energy out to actually process.
Yes. Haha. Yes. That's why when I was visiting Maria, I was telling her like the ways in which I process. And one of them, I used to use it as like a disassociation, um, like avoidance of like whatever was painful. And now I use it as a way to process and to repair rather than keep it stuck. And it's like I'll walk, I'll shake, I'll like bounce, I'll do different movements while still allowing myself to feel rather than I think when I was a kid, I would do it. I would actually stay still when I was a kid. Like I didn't allow myself to move. I would go and hide in my room and in the corner of my bed and I would do this. And even now, sometimes when I notice I'm doing that, I'll allow myself to do that for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm like, I need to get up and move because
Mhm.
this is just that pattern, that behavior is keeping me safe, but it's also now I'm going into an old pattern that's not serving me. It's actually going to keep whatever's going on stuck in my body. And that's how my body's going to keep the score of, hey, this is your form of coddling. Well, now my form of coddling is allowing myself a couple of minutes of that if I need to. And then it's movement or writing or talking or calling Maria or holding a tree. Like it's movement. Um, because that for me personally has helped me process because this is coming in because that's also how I learn. Oh,
Yes. I'm so glad you, yeah. Yes.
Whoa.
Uh-huh.
That's how I learn.
Uh-huh.
I can't learn. And that's why journaling is also like, I have to remember that it's a good thing because when I read stuff, I can't learn it. When people talk, I can't learn it. Like, I have to, like, I told you this when I'm on the phone with you, when you're like going through something, I'm moving. So I can actually stay present. If I'm sitting there, I'm not like
I know.
it's,
I
yeah, it's
know. Because you
fucking
tap
wild.
out. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So like I've learned through practice or trial and practice, right? Not error, like
Love
what
it.
works for me to learn to be present.
Right.
Right. And sometimes I look off. Like when I'm doing readings, I'll look off and it's not because I'm not present. It's because I need to, because that's how I learn.
Yep.
Whoa.
I love that you're sharing this because I think it's so important for people to inner and understand that like our our trauma responses are different, right? Our processing ways are different. So it's being able to discern within yourself, right? Like so Sam knows that what her previous patterns were that were built on like a trauma response. So now she's like finding new ways to not return to those patterns. Now, there's some people who their trauma response is to run and keep moving, right? So, in those instances, perhaps getting in a fetal position and actually holding themselves is the healed response, right? So, understand that when we're sharing stuff, like it's coming from our own self awareness and understanding, but all of us have different responses to things. So just because that might be Sam's now new response to right? Ways of living, that doesn't mean that's everybody else's because you first have to determine are you a runner? Like, what are your trauma responses? Are you a fighter, like, fight or flight? Are you running? Are you hiding? Are you distracting? Right? There's so many different responses to trauma. So it's first identifying what your personal response is and then going, okay, what's like the opposite to that? And let me try doing that.
Mm-hmm. I love that you just said distracting because oh wow, my right knee is like doing this like cool, like,
Pulsating.
yeah, so cool. Um, but I love that you just said distracting because oh, that's, I mean, I bet a lot of people can agree with that. Distraction is very easy now. And so I've realized when you just said that, that I move to not do this.
Boom.
I go for a walk or a drive so I'm not distracting, so I'm not watching TV. Like, even if I'm like listening to a webinar or something that's important, knowing it's hard for me to learn that way, like I have to move around my room to listen to the webinar. So I'm like actually taking in the information. Otherwise, I'm like looking up everything else. I'll have every fucking tab open. I'm like scrolling. I was like, oh, what did she just say? But then once I get, but then once I get up and move, it's like I get that nugget of why I listen to that webinar. It's like, this is exactly what you need right here. And I'm like, oh, okay. But what led up to that? So now I'm more engaged and I can be more present to listen to why I needed this nugget. What was before this nugget, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So this is another way the body keeps the score. We just went from my Pepe to trauma response healing, which is pretty cool. I love it.
I know, because it's all related. It's all connected.
Because people do the doom scrolling, they call it, right? And it's like
Oh God.
when you're doing that, one, it shifts your energy, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
being aware of why are you doing this? Like a lot of my clients find themselves doing this thing escape. And we they have all the tools of the other things to do, but it's such like a program, like this is what I escape to because this is what everyone else around me is doing. And
Yep.
like you're not going to get up at work and just like, all right, I'm just gonna start doing jumping jacks while everyone's scrolling. But what if you did? Right?
Right?
What if you did? So
Boom.
what if you're the weirdo
Be the
doing jumping
change, people.
jacks?
Be the change.
Right? Like be that weirdo that's doing jumping jacks or like, starts dancing like while everyone's scrolling and you're just trying to shift the energy. Um,
Yep.
I went to this beautiful retreat rooted with Andy Love. It was like our final thing. It was really beautiful. Um, and we all had to facilitate with each other different experiences. And that, with that whole process, the way she facilitates it and teaches us how to do it, it's going from like, well, what's alive for you right now, right? Like, what are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling nothing. Feeling stuck. Whatever it is, right? And I'm not going to go through my whole process right now, but like what I was expecting obviously didn't happen. I thought I was like going to get up and dance and like party and like celebrate. But when I sat with it and the person asked me and was attentive and I felt safe, my body started reacting and my shoulder started speaking. And so, like, the process is what's alive for you. You just kind of close your eyes and just see what's alive, whatever it is, whether it's a feeling, a memory, hot, cold, ink, whatever it is, right? Or I don't want to do this. Anything is possible. And then you just kind of, okay, where are you feeling that? And then you just bring your awareness there, you touch it, and then you just kind of open space, let it move. But then you like let it move. How does it want to move? And the person is facilitating, like helping you, right? But they're not telling you what to do. They're just guiding you to listen to your body. And I'm sharing this because like I went through every process of grief possible in 5 minutes, and which seemed really long, but it wasn't, because I just went into it, allowed myself fully to just, because me, I'm one of those people like, all right, I don't got time for this. But also it's like it's my inner parts that are like, I've learned they're excited. Like they're like, oh my God, she's paying attention. Oh my God, like let me talk. And one of the I ended with like I was laughing, I was crying, I was happy, and then I was like, oh, I'm so angry. Like it was like I couldn't sit still in my chair. Like I wanted to run. And the woman was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to just, she's like, let's do it. So she was like mirroring me, and we're both like, ah. And then I started like making these noises, and I didn't care. Like it's what
I love it.
needed to happen, right? Because I was processing stuff that happened 6, 7 years ago. And but it wasn't, it was like that was one of the incidences, but it was all the way to childhood. And so like all of these ages of me were like, yeah, we're angry. Like it's okay to be angry. So Andy gives me this, like, it's called a body blade. I know I told you about this, but like let's say this is just a candle, but let's say it's much longer than this. Okay. And it, it's flexible, like it moves like this, but it's rubber, and you hold it and you just push and you just let out wherever you're feeling. You can do it up, you can do it to the side, but it oscillates the energy. So when you're releasing energy, it brings back in like positive, like it does something with like energy. She was sharing with me while I was like in it. So I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
know the whole science behind it, but it fucking works. And then I stood on the body plate, the vibration plate while doing it. And then I
Oh
just
my
ended
God.
up, yeah, I was like a jackhammer. Literally, everything was shaking. But like after I just started laughing, like tears of joy, because I let my body just release. And as I was doing it, all of these other times that had similar energies to what I was originally processing were able to be shaken out. And it was like, whoa, right? Because the body holds the memory. The body holds, even if we don't know it, like you were saying in our subconscious, the body holds it because our
Right.
nervous system. And like I even had like past lives flash in or simultaneous lives flash in when I was doing it. And I was like, whoa, but I didn't have to know what it was. It
Right.
needed to be in the process of the movement of releasing anger to restore harmony in my body. And after I was just, it was like, and everyone's like, you're so brave. That was so beautiful to see you in your power. And I thought about it. I was like, in my power, all I was doing was expressing my emotions. And I'm like, but that's what being in your power is. We think
How
like,
wild is that?
right?
That
Like,
that is being in your power, because that's literally being authentic. You are allowing yourself to express whatever the F emotion is coming up in the now moment. That is literally what it means to be authentic, aka be in your power. It's so simple of a concept, but yet it is so hard for us to do because we've been so not in our power our whole life.
uh-huh.
Because even like, and I'm sure Sam, you can relate to this, but like when I talk to people about like, oh, like taking your power back, people are, what does that even mean? It's like, it actually just means to be 1000% authentic you in every now moment. And when you do that, you realize how much you shifts, right? Like how much
Mhm.
energy shifts through you in every now moment. But because we've been like pretending so much our life, our entire life, right? And this is why I do grief coaching, because we've suppressed all of this, and that's what society has taught us to do, right? And so we don't even know what it means to be real because we're programmed to say, "Oh, how are you today?" "Fine, good." Oh, that is that's a trigger for me.
Activated.
That is such a trigger when I'll ask someone like, "How are you?" And like you clearly know they're not good. "I'm good. I'm fine." "Cool."
Well, because
You're gonna
we
keep
say
lying to
that a
yourself?
lot. Well, I mean, I feel like we say that a lot too. I mean, we know why we say that, but like I learned that I'll say that to people when like one, I know that they're not the person I can share with my what's really coming up with me, that I know like I just know. And then the other thing is I don't have the capacity right now to tell you the truth of what's
Yep.
coming up right now because I'm still processing it. And then I know that you're a safe space, but if you keep asking me questions or trying to fix, I can't process it. I can't even
Yes.
do it myself.
Yeah,
So
don't
I'm
try
going
to
to say
fix
I'm
us.
okay. Yeah.
Don't try to fix us.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
I'm just,
that's
or I'm not going to respond. Like if you ask me how I am, if I say I'm good, like that truly means I'm good. If I don't respond to you, there's some shit happening under the surface here. And I'll get back to you when I'm actually good or I'm ready to share with you. Right. Like,
yeah. And for me, it's a trigger from my marriage. So I won't even like, I don't care. Like, I'll tell people, but what I'll say is, I'm not good, but I'll be fine. Like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to get myself through this, right? Like, just like what Sam's saying, it's knowing your audience. Like, can this person hold space? And do you even want someone else to hold space for you right now, right? Like, so very similar to her, I will answer based on the audience that's asking me, but I will never say I'm good when I'm not because that is such it's a trigger for it's a big rooted deep trigger for me because I feel like that's what created even the delusion or illusion of my marriage. Oh, everything's good. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Right. And a lot of us are living in that, to be perfectly honest. Right.
mm-hmm,
Oh, yeah, everything's great in my relationship. Everything's good in this friendship. Everything's good at this job. Right. But that's literally, you're lying to yourself. And so, how do you show up as a real person to anyone else if you can't be real with yourself first? Right. And that's a lot of like what I do in my coaching with people is, especially in the shadow work when we're deep diving, it's like you have to first find out where you're lying to yourself. What delusions are you living in, right? Like, because that's the only way you break through out of these things and out of these patterns. But if you're still living in a delusion that everything's great when it's not, well, like then everything you spew out to everyone else is also on some level going to be a lie because you're living a lie, right? Like everything's energy. And so if you're living a lie, well, then everything that comes out of you on some level is not fully true. So, yeah, if I'm not good, I'm going to tell you, but I'm also going to tell you I'll be okay because I've proven to myself all the times I haven't been good, I come out on the other side so much better than before. So, that's where I've just learned to be like more and more authentic and more real with people. Like, yeah, I'm having a shit day. Like even this weekend talking to different people, I'm like, yeah, I'm not well, but it's okay. Like you don't have to worry about me, but you
mm-hmm.
asked. So now you're going to get an honest answer. But don't, like what Sam is saying, don't now try to come in and fix me. Cause let me tell you, that's not gonna, that's not gonna go well. Because that's just something I no longer have tolerance for. A year ago, if you tried to come in and fix me, I'd have more tolerance for that. But now I've reached like a point where it's like I have to call people out on it when they're doing it in a loving way because it's like it's part of our programming. And like, but that's not holding space for someone. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically seeing them as a broken individual that you now need to fix, right? And I don't see people like that. Even when people are breaking down, I don't see them as a incomplete individual. I know they're just going through stuff, right? I know
Right.
I'm not there to fix it for them. I'm there to hold that space. But likewise, that's all I really need from my people too. I don't need fixers. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. And
Nope.
when we say like we're good and we don't mean it, it's also like signaling to ourselves, especially when we say it out loud. because what you've brought into light for me, which I've always known, but like words can be medicine or poison,
Mhm.
right? And so if like, oh, I'm good, but everything inside of you is like, we're not good, we're not good, we're not good, but you're saying we're good, you're telling those parts that don't feel good, they're not worthy of saying we don't feel okay. We're not.
Right. And it
Yeah.
actually gives a negative to the internal part of us. Wow, this is wild. It gives that internal part of us a negative connotation of the word good
Mm-hmm.
because what we're
Oof.
experiencing actually isn't good. But now we've programmed ourselves to use that word. Yeah, I'm getting wicked chills.
Me too, my whole body.
And so it's like this complete miscommunication within ourselves, right? And so now the subconscious, conscious part of us, unconscious part of us now associates that word good with quite the opposite feeling, which is probably also why we also have a fear of positive good things.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Mm.
Right? Like, yeah.
Take
This
that
is
one
this is
in.
Maria and Sam real time having like real time epiphanies. This is how it is when we're together. I'm eating. I like got bed head, rolled out of bed, got a client in a half hour. But this is how we roll, people. This is our authentic selves. But
This
that's
is.
so like I'm getting loud ringing in my ear. It's like how we've like programmed ourselves in a very distorted way, which is when you think about the 3D matrix, it's distorted. Everything's backwards, everything's kind of upside down. And so when you're lying and using, I'm good, I'm fine, but inside you don't feel that way, now your mind has created a negative story around that word good. So think about any time you hear that, your subconscious hears that in the day to day, that word good, that's triggering actually a negative response in your nervous system. Whoa, fuck,
Yeah.
wild.
So some of you might know, but it took me over almost 2 years, but to launch my self-paced coaching program, JoyCode. And it has to be the name JoyCode. It's just what came in. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be. It can't be changed. The thing is that it's not another self-help thing. It's an empowerment thing. It's a creative process. It helps all learning styles try and not try, you will once you apply it, feel more empowered in your body. Begin to feel the true energy of good, of joy, of happy, of relaxation. People are like, I don't need, I got joy, good joy, blah, blah, blah. What you just said right there, right? Because joy can come
Oh,
in grief. Story I just shared, right? Like joy can come in so many different forms. It could come from just sitting there and like you're taking a nice breath, or you get to spend a couple extra minutes waking up, or cooking your favorite food, not being rushed, or you're in a rush in the car and your favorite song comes on, it just resets your mood. Like there's all levels and facets of joy and good. And when you just said that, it was like click. Like it is hard for people to, they put joy on a pedestal or happiness on a pedestal. Oh, I'll be happy when, if, blah, blah,
mm-hmm.
blah. Oh, I have joy in my everyday, but you're stressed out to the max. So please share with me that, right? And it's what you just said is we have this vibration within our tutorial field, within our society, that good is actually not good. So we don't actually know when we're feeling good. And when we're
Right.
feeling good, we're like, what's wrong? This won't last. Holy shit. Right. And it's like, or
Yep.
I'm stuck, or I'm not connected because I feel maybe neutrality is good for you because you're not up and you're not
Right.
low.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
Peace is another thing too that like, and I think I've even seen like a meme about it. Like, be careful not to confuse boredom with peace.
mhm.
And it's true because we're such a fast-paced society that is all about production, 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 production. And if you're not productive, then you're not successful. If you're not successful, then you're not worthy, right? All these, and it's like so fast-paced. When you start to actually slow down and be and connect with that inner peace, the mind is going to confuse it and it's going to say, I'm bored. and it will, the subconscious part of us will actually then look for trauma and drama to create, because the part of our body that is or the parts of our body, the endorphins that are released during fight or flight, right? And like Dr. Joe Dispenza goes into this, but it's the same concept. Like, we're releasing all of these chemicals when we're in fight or flight. It's
Hmm.
like releasing drugs in our body. So our body becomes addicted to that. Our body actually becomes addicted to being in fight or flight, in survival mode. So when you actually do slow down and feel neutral and feel at peace, the mind and parts of the body are going to try to pull you back into trauma and drama, because it's like, I need that drug. I need to feel that way because I'm like bored right now. And it's like, are you sure you're bored? Or you're like, are you just at peace and you don't even know what that feels like? Because in a society that is so fast paced and not really one that ingrains peace into us, it's a very confusing energy to start to embody and connect with. And then the mind is like, oh, you're not productive. Up, you're lazy. Up, I'm bored. Up, I got to find something to do. And then there comes the doom scrolling. There comes the distracting, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Oh, wild.
One of the codes in JoyCode, it's called dot code, and it represents deer, owl, and turtles. And the
Love it.
owl, what?
I didn't know that. I said I
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Love
I
it.
have dragon. So this is dragon code, rose code, waves code, crystal code, um, Merlin's code, magic code. There's a bunch of codes. But the dot code, the owl represents many things, but just for the sake of originally signing on to this with Pepe always came in as owls. And one of my first power animals with our shamanic journey, when it came to like the soul retrieval aspect, was the owl. And so it had to be a part of the code, but that code is about like presence and seeing your shadows with so much light, right? Like seeing the darkness as light and being present with it. But it's like there's fun exercises in it because people like shadow work. Ugh, I don't want to do that. But it's like it doesn't it the shadow is
Not
like
bad. It's a
fun. Like,
fucking beautiful place. Let me
yeah,
tell you, when you shine that light and that
yeah.
shadow, all of you that want to tap into your spiritual gifts, guess what? Guess where they are? They're in the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yep.
the parts of us that we've repressed. They're the most natural birthright parts of us that have been suppressed. So they're in the shadow. That's where our spiritual gifts are in the shadow. That's the irony of it. Our
Mm-hmm.
spirit is in the shadow. Our light is in the shadow. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go into the shadow. Otherwise, you are bypassing. It's kind of a conversation I had this weekend that was triggering. It's like, I know for me, like my soul is here to go into the darkest places. I know that. That's part of what I came into in this human experience, right? And it's what I know to be true because I'm able to alchemize it. Sam and I are able to go into those very, very dark, dense paradigms that are violent and gruesome and scary and painful and sad and everything, right? Because we can alchemize it into the joy code. We can alchemize it into the light, into the love, right? And I not everybody's soul mission is the same, right? But I do know that without a doubt in me that that is when I'm called to a land, when I'm called to a space, I know there's darkness there. I know
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm being brought there because I don't bypass the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
I love the shadow. And you
Me
can't
too.
love the shadow if you bypass it.
Yeah, my mom, like you guys can't see it, but it's on my JoyCode thing, but my mom made me, she went out in nature and she bought all, she didn't buy, she picked up all of these like trees and different things from nature and she made an owl out of it. It's like a 3D pop out owl. It's so beautiful and my mom's a
Oh,
very
I
creative.
love that, Lynn.
Yeah, she's on. Hi, mom.
Hi,
Um,
Lynn.
and hi, Crystal. Um, she's a very, she's very, very creative. And, but she also had like, growing up, we'll say had a lot of darkness when it came to the way in which she created art. Not, she didn't create with darkness, but I meant like she channeled a lot of her pain in the artwork, right? So for her to make that owl for me it was like she shifted her perception around how art can be created, right? And she did it because it was one of my power animals, and she connected with earth with it. So she shifted her own reality of not all art needs to also become from pain. It can come from joy. Right. So
Mm,
that's why it's also in my code.
I
Because
love it.
yeah, because we shut off a lot of our creativity because we think that art is, oh, drawing, painting, singing, dancing. It's like we are art.
We are art.
We're art. But once we release the resistance and all of that overthinking, right? Like just like we were saying earlier with journaling, right? If you just write art, like what is art for me? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And you just write. That's your art, babe, right? Like it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but when you were talking earlier, I just want to mention that, and I wrote it down, uh, with the owl thing. So Pepe had, when I lived in Florida, he started to have a little trouble walking. And so he got one of those three-legged canes, but he hated it. Like he was so stubborn. So we went into the store, and me and my dad got a dog, and we poked a hole in the dog and we put it over the cane so it looked like he was walking a dog, right?
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, my dad just got it patented, which is pretty cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
16 years later, doesn't matter.
Hey, time is an illusion.
Time's an illusion. But he just shared with me when you were talking, he said, "Don't hold my pain, Sammy." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "It was my right leg." So I was being shown him walking with it with the dog, which reminds me of Nico. And
Huh.
yeah, because he was here when I got Nico. And so he was just showing me a bunch of like memories and going back all the way young with him, and like he's just showing me like the trajectory of the pain with his right leg, which was fascinating because something's probably never shared with anybody, right? Like it's like now that he's out of this physical dimension, he can see the timestamps, the trajectory, like you do in your
Yep.
grief coaching, right? Like
Right.
here are the timestamps to get to the original incident.
Yep.
And so he's showing that, like, not that he passed me the buck of right leg pain, but like it was, he's saying, don't hold on to the pain anymore of this wounded masculine ancestral stuff around being stubborn. Like it's okay to be solid and soft. Which came in yesterday in the shower. I sent an email out. You got it right. Yeah.
That's why I texted you that. I'm
Okay.
solid in this decision.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Pepe. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so interesting. Yeah, he's like, don't be stubborn when it comes to moving. Like just move and make it fun, like you did with the dog, like putting the dog on the cane. Like just like you don't need a he's just I keep hearing, don't hold on to our pain. And it's like the masculine of the family. Don't hold on to it. It's not your job. It was your job to a point, but now you're aware it's not your job, right? Like it's part
Dude,
of
it's
your,
literally what you were telling Bandit when you were here last week.
oh, don't
Your
hold it.
face,
Don't
your
hold it. Don't
face,
hold it.
your face. Because he's, of course, right here under me. Um, just like our bodies hold the score, so do our pets. And my dog, well, I get two of them, but Bandit, my empath, my absorber,
Mm-hmm.
um, is also feeling everything that Mama is, and it's a challenge for me because I know it's part of his path, and I know I can't protect him from that. I know it's part of our agreement,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also still that part of me that's like, how do I assist him? Because it's my dogs are my kids, like they are literally my kids, and so just like all you parents out there, when your child is suffering, right? It's like, ah, but I also know like it's not, I can't fix it. Here comes the whole fixing thing, right? I can't fix it because I do know what his contract is. And I have to trust that he's just as strong as I am to navigate these things. But I also then do remind his subconscious self to release. Like you don't have to hold on to all of this. You do not have to hold on to the pain of our family. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why he did it for many years in the house with us. And then just everything that I've gone through in the last year, he's absorbed it. And he got really sick in January and like he's not really fully back to himself. And when Sam was here, we did healing on him, but that was like the big message, like, don't hold it, Bandit. Don't hold on to it. Like, let it move through you, just like we're letting it move through us. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
have him on every homeopathic, natural thing under the sun. And so I know I'm doing like the best that I can, but I also know I can't control his path either. And I
Mm-hmm.
have to allow, you know, him to process in the way that he's going to. And I have to just remind myself, like, I'm doing the best I can to take care of him and hold that space for him. But I also know I'm not here to really fix him either. That's a really
Mm-hmm.
challenging experience to navigate sometimes when you're
But
taking care of something vulnerable, right? Like a child or a pet or even like an elderly parent or like anything that is vulnerable that's like in our care, it is very hard to also have that detached compassion of like, but yet I also know you're your own God self and like you have your own journey here.
mm-hmm.
It's a tricky, it's a slippery slope, as they say.
It's a fine line.
It's a fine line. It's quite the dance.
Because if we don't do anything, it looks like we don't care,
Mhm,
right? If we don't try to help the person, it looks like we don't care.
mhm.
And also it gets to a point where like I have tried. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and you are your own, just like you said, God self. You need
Yep,
to try. You need to do it for yourself because like
yep.
you came here for your own path and your own story. And the more I hold on and try and help you and fix it or hold your hand the whole time, it takes away your own empowerment. Just like
Sovereignty.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I was sharing me allowing myself to process 1,000 different emotions in front of 9 women, like, and them telling me it was beautiful to witness you in your power when it's not
Huh.
me facilitating, it's not
Right.
me holding a thing like you and I do, it's not me clearing land, it's me in my own truth, my in my feels, in my emotion, in my fucking body,
Boom.
right? Just feeling life and not having anyone try and stop the process. Like to them in their eyes, that was me being in my power. And I was like, holy shit, that is. Because that's what we want our clients. Like we support them, we hold the space for them to own that, to know that feeling your stuff is needed. Because that's why the body keeps the score, because we never feel our stuff. But the more we allow ourselves to feel it, the less we feel it for longer durations.
Correct.
Right. So it actually, and
Oh
then the
God, yeah.
thinking gets less.
Yep. Because now you're just embodying the feeling. You don't have to know why you're feeling it anymore. You're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I know this is coming up. And rather than fight it, resist it, try to tell myself I'm not feeling it, I'm just going to surrender to it. Oh my God, it just moved through me like 10 times faster than it did a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I just allowed it to. Again, very simple concepts, just not easy for us to do because it's uncomfortable.
Crystal said, I think she's referring to Bandit. I'm feeling that he is tired, but he is okay with being tired, that he's comfortable. Oh, hold on. He's comfortable with exactly where he is, and he just wants to be in the moment around people he loves that are their happiest version of themselves. It feels like he doesn't want effort on him and feels like he wants to watch you heal, if that makes any sense at all. I think that's about, oh, and I think that your conversation with him are the most important. Maybe he doesn't want to talk about leaving this dimension soon. Maybe he just wants to be with mom and make memories and watch the sunrise and sunset and eat fun snacks and see wonderful things.
Well, thanks. I didn't know I was getting a reading in this.
So, Crystal, that's beautiful because one of the things Maria did when I was there is she sat and she was sending Bandit healing, but most importantly, she was shifting the contracts with her and him and giving him permission, not permission, but like, hey, buddy, like you have your own path. Like, I love you for it. Like, and I have my own path. Like, do you remember doing that? I'm not putting it into words properly, but
Oh yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't like releasing contracts like I've done before. It was shifting of a
Yeah.
contract. It was shifting of his contracts with me, his contracts with both of my exes because he's feeling that too. Um, and it wasn't this like cord cutting. It was a shifting of the roles that we're all playing with each other now.
Hmm.
And now, of course, my other dog feels all this energy. He's got to go out. So,
Well, that's why his name's Sonic, because Sonic the Hedgehog. I swear Sonic's a cat. But thank you, Crystal. That was beautiful. Very well said. Um, yeah, we have to just be mindful of our energy, but also knowing that we can't, and it's not just animals, but people, we can't fix anybody. Um, and that's why the body keeps the score is so important because it's like if you are activated or as we said, triggered, or you're feeling sensation or you're feeling something, it's like, what is this? Just being curious about it without judging or resisting it. And that way it doesn't get stuck in the body. And like, so what was just brought to my awareness was this ancestral thing in my body. And because I have had injuries with my knee through sports as a kid, not that I played a lot of sports, but different things. And I remember doing P90X in my living room, and my hand went through
oh
like a
my God,
hole.
I did
Yeah.
P90X.
And my hand went through like a hole in the wood because like barn floor. I remember twisting my knee and being like, fuck. But where we have whatever activity we're doing or wherever there's actually a physical injury, the emotions that we're not allowing ourselves to process, they sit in those areas at that time too. And
Yep.
so that's why it's important when you do have this space, even like, let's say on a day, you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do today. Well, what if you just took 5 minutes and connected with your body and was like, what does my body want to process today? What energy doesn't want to shift today? Right. And then it's you're giving yourself the power to connect and shift where your body's just organically releasing because you're giving it permission. So it's like you can actually say, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm really good.
Yeah, and I mean it. I ain't lying. I ain't full of shit. I'm good and I mean it.
Yep. Yep.
That's a win. I mean, that might be a win for the day. Like, oh my God, I actually said it and I meant it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's been a lot of times where I like even posts that I've made or like videos I've done where people out of I know that they mean very well. It's because they care. But like it's like they feel bad. And I'm like, I'm not sharing, neither you and I share to have people feel bad for us.
Dear God, no.
We're sharing to let you know like we're all human, no one is above or below anyone, and that we need to share because we all can relate to something that someone says,
Hmm?
even if it doesn't click at first. Like that's the power of dropping seeds. Like a year from now we could be like remembering this conversation, just like Pepe reminded me of, standing at Castle Island like with my knee in the thing, like holy moly.
Yep. Yeah. And it just, I mean, especially when you go through a death, we are so disembodied, right? We are so disconnected when we're going through those motions of just the whole death process, right? Like the funeral, the wake, like we are so not present, right? And so when you have these memories resurface, it's like holy shit, I didn't even remember that happening because we're not present, right? Because it's a very uncomfortable, just the way like our society does death. It's so doom and gloom. In fact, just I'll share briefly before I jump off for my grief coaching. Um, I was one of the lands that Sam and I were clearing. Like I was shown, was basically brought to like inner earth of that area and then brought out like each rung, kind of, if you will. So like each dimension. So I was brought like to the densest and then pulled out, right? Zoomed out. And in one of the dimensions, like it was these death walking ceremonies or psychopomp as we call it in shamanism. But it was the ancestors' way of trying to alchemize the land at that time because they were trying to like shift the whole perspective of death as like a celebration, a ceremony. versus like this doom and gloom way that we do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, it was painful what I was connecting to because it was like grief, but yet it was also the beautiful joy that we talk about that also comes with it because it was like a celebration of these people's lives, right? And it was like how the ancestors at that time and space and that dimension were attempting to alchemize lower density vibrations of realities also set in that same, we'll say, physical location, if that makes sense to people. um so it's just very interesting how each vibration of the same reality, it still reflects the same narrative, but it's a different perspective, right? And that's alchemy. It's basically like, hey, yeah, all this bad stuff, we'll say, happened here, but look at how each dimension, as you shift out or shift up, how it has been, the narrative of it has actually been raised, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really what we're doing, which is badass.
Mm-hmm. I before you hop off,
Badass.
I want to mention how when I was at the Rudy retreat, she gave us all one white rose, and then someone or something had like crushed one of mine, so she gave me another one because we had to do this like activity, and I brought both of them to Arizona. I'm sorry, you don't live in Arizona, to New Mexico, and but I kept one in my backpack, and the other one I put in my journal, and I was guided to give. It was just strong, like you have to give Maria this rose. And I was like, okay. So I gave it to her in the car when she picked me up from the airport. And when we went to this land to do more energy work, she's on one section, I'm on this other, and I won't go into the whole thing right now, but after she was like, oh, this land wanted roses. And so I asked the person on the land, I was like, so did you do roses yet? And they're like, oh no, da da da. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, I gave her a rose. And Maria was like, oh, I have the rose in my car. And so she went and like did whatever she did with the rose, but gave it as the offering to land. That's the land wanted. So I'm sharing this because when we listen to our body, when we take the time to be present with our body and just feel whatever we feel, our intuition is just it's on point that it's almost like, am I making this up? So like me getting that intuitive guidance to give her the rose wasn't really for Maria. It was because our higher selves in the land knew that they needed the rose for the ceremony that we were going to be doing together. And so that person couldn't give the roses before that time because it needed to have the energy of we both did the clearing and the vibration shifting of both of us with the rose because we both worked with the rose there.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit, like the little signs, we just need to listen to them along the way. And it starts with like listening to the body, really, like whatever you're feeling.
Yep.
It's wild.
Because the body keeps score.
Yep.
The
Love it.
body knows a lot. And when we actually like slow down and listen to it, it's very wise. So these are like just some of the things that if you come to our retreat in August here at Tico Time in New Mexico, these are really the kinds of things we're going to be doing with people is really guiding and holding that space on how to tune into your body and the land, right? Like everything is always talking to us, but we're so distracted. We're so busy. We're so productive as us humans, right? That we miss so many of the messages and then we don't trust them. Like that's the biggest thing is like really trusting. Like if Sam hadn't trusted all of the like she didn't know why she gave me that, but she's like, oh, I'm gonna give it to her, right? And I just
Oh,
have
in
to
the
say this
wood.
real quick. Yeah, and the wood, but real quick before we jump off, I also thought this was profound. So when Sam and I met, and I thought it when you gave me the flower too, it made me think of so when Sam and I met, we met at a meditation and watch our other videos. We give the whole rundown of how we met. But the second meeting of us was like, so we met at a meditation on, say, like a Wednesday night. And then that Friday night, I had psychic class with the teacher that we met during our meditation through. And so she invited Sam to like come to our class, and Sam came and we did flower readings. And both
Oh.
Sam and I brought flowers with short stems. And our teacher was like, look how both of you cut out like you have no stem. That it's because you both don't see your own worth. Like you sell yourself short, basically. And we were both like, holy shit, that's what that means. Like we're the only two there with like no stem. Everybody else has these like beautiful stems, and we're like, here's our flower. Here's our tiny ass stem. And I thought of it when you gave me that rose. Like it just like it brought me back to that moment. I'm like, oh my God, our flower readings. Because the rose didn't really have that long of a stem. So it's just interesting how things come full circle. And yeah.
I had to tear it off to have it stand in my bag.
All right.
Yeah. Because I was
So
like,
you weren't selling us short this time.
no, because I
Because we
didn't
know
want to
our worth
crush it.
now.
Yeah, I didn't want to crush it. And it was like, it's all right. You can just like I went to bend it and like I was like, oh, this isn't good. So it was like, it's okay, just break me off. So I did, and I left it like
I love it.
I left it where there was a hummingbird outside of our Airbnb. So I left the stem of the rose. Yeah.
A hummingbird, of course. Lorraine, there she was. There she was. I
Yeah.
love it. All right, all. Well, I got to jump off and onto a coaching session. This was an awesome impromptu live, and it will be on our YouTube because we have a playlist now on there with our lives. So check it out, check us out, and definitely think about coming to our embodied medicine retreat because it's all about returning to the body and working with the body as one. When we work with the body as one,
Mhm.
let me tell you, it's a pretty powerful thing when the spirit and the body become one. It's good shit. It's good shit.
When I'll be oh wait, I was gonna sing a song, but never mind. I forgot the lyrics. Yeah, I won't be I'll probably be singing at the retreat. Yeah. But
There we go.
tickets will go on sale March 22nd, so in a couple days.
Yep.
But if you're interested, just reach out. It's on our website. I also have the JoyCode, which is the 8 code self-paced journey. Maria's doing grief coaching. We're both offering coaching, limitless sessions, all of the jazz. But yeah, we love you guys.
Love ya.
Have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Peace.
Peace. I don't know how to stop it, but love you.
Story of my life. All right. Well, I'm going to leave the Zoom
Okay.
and I'll message you after my coaching.
All right. Love you.
Ah.
Bye.